afternoon. Captain Justin DeLeon here from the University of Iowa, APMS at the University of Iowa, and also the MS3 instructor. Today, we want to talk about occupying the ORP, or the Objective Rally Point. And so our terminal learning objective for today is we want to demonstrate a doctrinally sound way to occupy the ORP both deliberately and hastily, and what those look like. References that we're going to be using today: ATP 3-21, Infantry Platoon and Squad, and of course the Ranger Handbook 2017 TC 3-21.76. So the first thing we want to establish is what exactly is the ORP and where is it on the map. So really the ORP is the final rally point before we conduct a leader's recon and conduct actions on our objective, regardless of what our mission is going to be. The only mission that we typically might not use an ORP for is the movement to contact. But we're going to assume right now that we're doing either a raid, an attack, an ambush, or a area reconnaissance, and so we need to establish that ORP. So the ORP is out of sight, out of sound, and also is at a small arms range of the objective. We try to plan our ORP in vicinity of the area where we want to move after actions on the objective. And then lastly, the main thing is that that ORP is tentative until we've actually pinpointed the objective and we're confident that that's the right location for the ORP. So the ORP stays tentative until that's been confirmed. So something I want to talk about, which I think is going to help lay the foundation for talking through actions in our ORP, is squads by function. So I think a lot of times I want to say it's a mistake, but something we do is we talk about squads as first squad, second squad, third squad, and then we say fourth squad. And we usually just assume that that fourth squad is the weapon squad. I think what we need to do better to understand how squads work in missions is go through the squad functions real fast. So according to the Ranger Handbook, the way we organize our squads is we have our security squad. We have what's called Assault 1 squad, which is usually our primary assaulting squad. We have an Assault 2 squad, which can be used as a secondary assault function, or it can be used in some type of support role, reserve role, whatever you deem necessary. And then of course we have our weapon squad, which our weapon squad is always going to be in a support role, because really it's the perfect squad to be a support by fire. So first of all, we're going to talk about it in chronological order. So we're going to start in our final security halt. So we're in that final security halt, and really we're in that cigar shape. And we got our basically our guns in order. We got our squads in order. Typically we got that first squad up here. That second squad kind of took either side of the security halt, and that third squad is kind of taking that rear security here. So when we're doing a deliberate ORP, we have to do a leader's recon to establish an ORP. Now again, this is the safest way to do it, and this is the doctrinal way to do it according to the Ranger Handbook, is that we deliberately occupy and we recon this position first. So we need to talk through who are the specific people doctrinally that go on this recon. Again, there's different ways to do it, but according to the Ranger Handbook, this is the proper way. So we'll talk over the leader's recon for an ORP. And you'll see this leader's recon, we'll go over it in another session, but this is the same exact personnel that are going to go on a leader's recon when we're trying to occupy and establish a patrol base. So the first one, obviously, is the PL. The RTO follows the PL wherever he goes. The key squad leader that's going to go here is that weapons squad leader. So we call him the Weasel. And with him, from his squad, we're going to bring his 3 ammo bearers, ABs. A lot of people say AGs, the actual assistant gunners, with their tripods, but we typically bring the ABs because sometimes people try to take their assistant gunners actually on the leader's recon of the objective. So to be safe, doctrinally, we always use the 3 ABs. So 3 times ABs. We bring our alpha team leader from our lead squad because he's our navigator. He's planned all the routes, primary, secondary routes, and he's the guy that's usually the compass man as well. And then lastly, we bring a saw gunner and a rifleman. It does not specifically say where those personnel come from, but those are the people that we're going to bring on the leader's recon. So we're going to meet in the middle here for our leader's recon. Something to note as well is that this security halt, we're going to halt that security, or we're going to take that final security halt 200 to 400 meters away from our proposed ORP. So typically this is going to be 200 to 400 meters in high visibility situations. If we go to a low visibility situation, like if we're doing this at night or a period of darkness, we're going to go and shrink that to 100 to 200 meters, according to the Ranger Handbook. So our Leaders Recon is going to organize in the center. I'm just going to put LR for Leaders Recon. We're going to talk through our actions, how we're going to get to our ORP, and then we're going to move out. So we're moving out of the front of the formation, and we're moving through that platoon sergeant. That platoon sergeant is going to maintain security of the security halt, maintain accountability, and the major thing that we're going to give him is that 5-point contingency plan, or a GOTWA, so he can disseminate that to the whole platoon. Everyone's tracking what we're doing, where we're going, you know, all the steps, actions on contact, actions if we don't come back on time, all that good stuff. So the Leaders Recon is going to move forward to that proposed ORP location. All right, in the typical ORP, if we're doing a deliberate ORP, the way it's going to look is we're going to have that triangle formation. All right, so first we're going to move forward and we're going to establish our 6 o'clock position. Right here. So we're going to establish our 6 o'clock and we're going to drop one AB in that location. So notice one thing that we didn't do here is we did not drop an LPOP, a listening post, observation post. That is something that you would do at a patrol base. This skips that step because we don't need to do it. All right, so we're going to go, we're not worried about the 90-degree angle turn, we're not worried about the LPOP, we're going straight to the 6 o'clock. We're dropping that AB. And now what we need to do is we need to identify a 2 o'clock and a 10 o'clock to get that security set in place. All right, so when we do this, we need to clear the terrain. One, to make sure there's no enemy there, but the biggest thing is make sure there's nothing on the ground. UXOs, maybe we see some trash, so we know that someone's been there recently, maybe someone will return. We want to make sure that there's no sign of enemy contact, no sign of something that's going to basically compromise our position. So the doctrinal way, according to the Ranger Handbook, is we clear it by going to the 12, to the 9, to the 3, and then we go back, all right? That is a doctrinal way to do it. Other ways to do it, which I've seen, again, totally on the SOP side, a way we did it at Ranger School a lot, was we literally would get online from how far we want the 10 away from the 2, and we walk forward and clear the entire area of the patrol base, or correction, the ORP. Both are methods that work. Again, if you're going to teach this in a doctrinal way, you have to do the 12 to 9 to 3 to 6 way. So we're going to move up. As we're doing this, we're going to set one AB at the 2. We're going to set our other AB at the 10. And now we've got our entire perimeter basically figured out. We've got all 3 apexes figured out, and we know where the guns are going to go once we get in there. At this time, we're then going to move back to the 6 o'clock. At the 6 o'clock, we're going to leave the weapons squad leader here. All right, so the weapons squad leader is going to maintain control of this position while we leave. So obviously, one of the major things we need to make sure he has comms with us. Whether that's through his, he's got a man-pack radio, he's got an emitter, PRC 152, whatever he's got to have some type of comm so we can communicate back and forth with him. Secondly, we got to figure out what we want to do with our saw gunner and our rifleman. So typically, this is the same look for a patrol base, and typically that saw gunner and rifleman can hold at the 90 o'clock position, or that LPOP for that 90-degree turn. So what we can do with them here is we can provide the weasel with extra security and post them at the 6 o'clock, or we can take them back and basically move as a 4-man fire team back to the ORP. So we'll leave the weasel with a GOTWA, or a 5-point contingency plan. We'll then move back with the personnel selected. We'll move back to the patrol base, and we'll call that platoon sergeant and say, hey, just so you know, we have confirmed the ORP location. We've pinpointed where we want to be. We've set in, get everyone ready to move. So when we get there, everyone's rucked up and ready to move, and we can move to that ORP. So we're going to get up, we're going to bring everyone back to the ORP, and we're going to occupy this in a very systematic way. So that first squad, that lead squad, is going to move through that 6 o'clock. Everyone will move through the 6 o'clock position. So everyone will move to the 6 o'clock position, and that lead squad will move all the way up to the 2 along this line, along this perimeter, and then they will move over to the 10 and occupy this. So this will be the first squad in order of movement. All right, that second squad will then move through the 6 and occupy to the 2. The third squad will then move through the 6 and move to the 10 and occupy over here. And now we've established our security. Our HQ will set up in the center, and we can start prepping men, weapons, and equipment for our leader's recon for our objective. The key thing to note, this is entirely an SOP, but something that I think works really well is having that weasel actually lead squads into the ORP. And the reason is you'll see, even in daylight conditions, in high visibility, people get confused of where to go. They cannot see the apex for some reason because the apex is in the prone, whatever it may be. So I like the weasel to actually lead that first squad to the 2, lead them over to the 10, and then set them in. The weasel then comes back to the 6, leads this squad in. The weasel then comes back to the 6 and leads that squad in. And then finally, when the weasel's completed putting every squad in security, he can then take his guns and go set them in at the 2 and the 10. All right, doctrinally, there is no doctrinal way of where the 2 240s get placed and a SAW gets placed to manage security. But typically the way we try to do it here at the University of Iowa SOP is we have a 240 at the 2, we have a 240 at the 10, and then at the 6 we place that SAW. Because that is we've moved in this area, this is the least probability that we're going to take contact from that direction. All right, we establish security, we start moving into our leader's recon preparation from there. So that is what deliberate is going to look like. Again, this is not the only way to do it. There's other ways that you can kind of deliberately change things up, especially with the leader's recon. If you want to take different types of personnel, additional personnel, you actually want to take the guns with you on the leader's recon. There's ways that people do this, but that is the way according to the Ranger Handbook. So next one I want to talk about is doing a hasty ORP. And really, what I'll say is doctrinally, according to the Ranger Handbook, you're not supposed to, I shouldn't say you're not supposed to, it does not list that it is a way to occupy an ORP. At the squad level, it is in the Ranger Handbook that you can take an ORP by force and without doing a leader's recon at the squad level. It's not specifically listed at the platoon level, so people assume it's just not allowed. The problem is that a lot of times we find ourselves in situations where we just do not have the time to deliberately do a leader's recon, set in the triangle form ORP, and then assume that position. It might just take too long, and it might run into our actions on the objective and just leave us not enough time to complete the mission. So we come up with some ways where we can hastily occupy an ORP and get moving on our leader's recon with trying to mitigate as much risk as possible. So there's two ways we do this. And I wanted to talk about our squad functions: security, assault 1, assault 2, and weapons, and talk about different ways that we can organize our platoon to also maximize our efficiency as we occupy ORPs. So the way I like it, we're going to go over two potential ways to do the hasty ORP. The way I like it is I like it where we have, so let's draw our formation here real fast. Again, we're going to platoon column, moving out traveling overwatch. So the way I like to see it and the way I typically teach is I typically teach that this first squad is our security squad. This second squad in order of movement is our assault 1. And this one is our assault 2. That's the way I typically like it to see it. Now we're going to talk about another way and another order that we can do it here in a second. But what this does is it provides us, I think, a lot more efficiency when it comes to our leader's recon. And also, I like having our security up front in that order of march because yes, it's possible to take contact from all sides, but it is most likely that you're going to take contact to the front because you're trying to keep the enemy in front of you. And that security squad typically has more assets. It typically has more AT-4s, has more ammunition because they have to do that isolation role on objectives. So they're going to have more firepower. So I like having them up front, and they end up being a great support by fire at certain times if you take contact to your front. So the way I like to do it here is we're moving, let's say to 12 o'clock, and what happens is the security squad leader moves to the ORP location directly. We skip the leader's recon during the hasty, and we assess that, hey, we don't have the time. and we're going to try and do our best to mitigate any risk involved. But we don't have the time to do a leader's recon. We just need to go occupy and then move to our leader's recon on the objective. Get straight to that. So what the security squad leader does is he assesses, hey, I think we're at the ORP location. He does not give back the hand and arm signal for ORP. So here at the University of Iowa, the ORP signal is here, like this, a stat saying we are at the ORP. If the squad leader sends that back, what happens now is the PL goes up to the front. He says, no, we're actually at the wrong spot, and now everyone's confused. So the PL should be the only one that issues the ORP signal. The squad leader calls a halt. The PL moves to the front of the formation. At the front of the formation, he talks to the security squad leader. They confirm saying, yeah, I think this is the right area for that ORP. They say, we are right on top of it. And what I like about this as well is now we've basically secured this ORP location. We're basically there and we've secured it. So what we do now is we move. Let me draw this and blow up real fast. So let's say we got our security squad up here. The PL moves to the front, talks to the security squad leader, says they're at the ORP, all right, and now it's time for us to place in the guns. And a lot of times what we're going to do now in a hasty ORP is we're going to do what's called a cigar shaped. So just like our security halt before the ORP was cigar shaped, we're going to try and have the same type of formation, same type of security looking thing. And really what it does is it enables us to use our two guns efficiently. The deliberate ORP really is made for a 3-gun set, and we are using a 2-gun set. So the cigar shape kind of makes more sense as well. So what we're going to do is we confirm, and I'm going to bring up both my guns. So I'm going to call this the 12 o'clock, and I'm going to choose a position over here in the rear and call it my 6 o'clock. I'll just put this O here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move a machine gun team to the 12. I'm going to post them there. I'm going to move a machine gun team to the 6 and post them there. So now we got both apexes of our cigar shape in place. What I like to do now is I like to take my whole security squad and collapse them. And I put them in the center because we'll talk about it in some other missions, but typically a large portion of your security squad is going to go on that leader's recon, especially if they have to isolate the objective on an ambush or a raid, if not the whole security squad. So what we do now is we can automatically collapse that security squad and move them into the center and prep for the leader's recon. So you got security squad, PL, RTO, any other else that's going on in the leader's recon, they can go to the center. And now we still have our second squads. We have Assault 1, we have Assault 2. And they can just easily move in to the formation. So AS1 or Assault 1 moves in through the 6, takes the left, and takes that cigar shape and goes to the 12. The second one moves in and takes that cigar shape, all right, to the 12 on the other side. And now we got that general cigar shape. And this is really fast. The moment we establish the guns, security collapses, Assault 1 moves in, occupies left, Assault 2 occupies right. Within 3 minutes, we got security established, and we are in the center prepping for that leader's recon. Very simple, very easy, very quick. Again, this is very useful if we're short on time. And in my opinion, we're not taking a lot of risk when it comes to security, especially because we have cleared all that area that we're occupying already. The second hasty that I want to mention is also a cigar shape, but a lot of people teach this way because a lot of people put their security squad in the rear. I don't typically agree with that, but it is something that a lot of people do. So I'll just talk through that real quick. So the only difference here is we have our Assault, can't spell, Assault 1 in the front. We have our Assault 2 in the center, and then we have our security in the rear. A lot of people do this formation. They move again to the ORP where they think the ORP location should be. The PL moves forward and then communicates with the Assault 1 squad leader in this specific instance. They communicate, they say, yep, ORP location. They call it the ORP. So now what he does, though, instead is the PL moves forward. And this is why I don't feel like this is as secure. The PL moves forward of the formation to unclear territory, however, and then he brings guns up with him. And he sets in a 12 o'clock gun. He sets in a 6 o'clock gun. And now the guns are, for a small period of time, the guns are out there alone and unafraid. Again, a little bit more risky, but it gets the job done. So the moment they're set in, then the Assault 1 moves in and takes to the left, A1. The Assault 2 then moves forward, moves in and takes to the right, A2. And then the security squad moves into the 6 and just goes straight to the center. So either way, we end up with the exact same formation where we got Assault 1 left, Assault right, securing the center. However, I feel that this is just a little bit more secure. We've already cleared the area before we place in our 2 machine guns into the 12, into the 6. So those are the 2 ways we do it. I think this also sets us up better for a leader's recon doing that cigar shape. I'll say if we do the deliberate, all of a sudden now we have a first squad, second squad, 3 squad. We have 3 squads on the perimeter. And now what we got to do is, let's say this 3rd squad is the security squad. They're going to come off the line and start prepping for the leader's recon of the objective. And now 1st and 2nd have to do some adjusting and get security set. What the cigar allows us to do is have a 2 squad perimeter right away, security squads in the center right away, and just makes it more efficient, and we're ready to go. I think this is typically a better way to go at the platoon level, even though this is the doctrinal answer. So that's basically occupying the ORP. Again, there's multiple different ways to do it. I think a lot of times the doctrinal way is the right way to brief it, but during a mission, when time is crunching, I think this is a great SOP and a great way to use to set yourself up for a successful leader's recon and actions on the objective. So just to go over the terminal learning objective again today, the purpose of the lesson was to demonstrate doctrinally sound ways to occupy an ORP both deliberately and hastily. And off that, we went over some specific terms, went over the different types of squads by functions, security, Assault 1, Assault 2, and weapons. So I hope this has helped you out. I hope you've gained a little bit more knowledge about ORPs and the best way to do them. And I'm Captain Justin DeLeon from the University of Iowa. Rangers lead the way.